to the Whole Elephant Podcast. I'm Eric McClanahan, and I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that we get to have this time together, and I'm super grateful for the conversations that I've had because of the last couple episodes on social media, people reaching out, wanting to chat about the different topics we talk about. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the conversation. I think we need the conversations. My guest today is Mike Leum. Mike, for 30 years, has worked with the LA County Sheriff's Department, assistant director there. He's also a first responder and group leader for the Montrose search and rescue team. He's literally taken helicopters into the mountains to rescue people, rappelling down mountains and ice. And I mean, this guy's absolutely incredible. I just want you to be forewarned that there's going to come a time in listening to this podcast that you're really going to genuinely question whether or not you're doing enough good in the world, because Mike is like the epitome of putting his beliefs and his love for people and humanity into action. He's been to the Ukraine recently, Turkey, responding to hurricanes, all these things all over the world, literally putting his life on the line for people. It's just an incredible guy, an incredible story. And so sit back, relax, enjoy the chat. All right, Mike.
Eric.
We're jumping right in, baby. We're going right into it. How are you, man?
I'm fantastic, thanks. How are you?
I'm sitting here. It's a Thursday morning. It's 9:00. And I'm about to drink this entire cup of coffee I have here. You strike me as a guy who's been up for 5 hours and already gotten 2 workouts in. Is that
not too far from the truth?
What is your morning routine? What time are you up?
So usually, depending on the day, but usually I'm up at 4:00 and doing any number of various activities.
Yeah.
From cycling to strength training to working out with a group of guys.
Yeah.
So this morning was a group workout. And it's kind of like a men's fellowship also.
Oh, okay.
So we get together and work out and close with a group prayer, and it's a great way to start the day.
Cool. Take us through what your job and career looks like right now, what you're up to.
So I work for the LA County Sheriff's Department as a civilian employee.
Okay.
Been doing that for 20 years. And I oversee the Reserve Deputy Program and the Mounted Posse Unit, Search and Rescue. And we have almost 500 Reserve Deputies. And so it keeps me busy. Now, parallel to that, but separate, I've been doing Search and Rescue for 30 years as a volunteer, which I'm still doing.
Got it.
So in our house, it's all sheriff all the time.
Yeah. What did your career look like prior to that, prior to the
Sheriff's Department, I worked in a family business in grocery stores. We had a chain of grocery stores. And that was great. But then we ended up selling in 2004, which is when I joined the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah. What does it mean to be a civilian employee at the Sheriff's Department? What's the distinction there?
So a civilian employee, and there's thousands of us, I don't wear a gun to work. And I'm an administrator. And then when I'm doing my search and rescue stuff as a reserve deputy, that's when I'm a sworn peace officer.
Got it. The search and rescue stuff, I don't know how you do it. It seems crazy to me. Take us through what search and rescue is, what it means, especially in this area that we're in.
So in Los Angeles County, there's 8 search and rescue teams spread throughout the county. And it consists of over 200 volunteers, both reserve sworn deputies and civilian volunteers, non-sworn. Mm-hmm. And we are all on call 24/7, 365 for any emergency happening up in the mountains. And last year, countywide, we had 733 missions. The team I respond with is right here in La Crescenta at the Crescenta Valley Sheriff Station. Mm-hmm. And that team averages between 120, 130 missions per year. Yeah. This year, we're on a tear. We had our busiest month ever last month in our 77-year history. So this year's probably going to be a big year.
What would lead? Is there something that leads to that, or is it just kind of random?
I get asked that all the time, and one of the common themes seems to be people going out unprepared. Now, technology has kind of changed the way we do search and rescue in that now there's a lot of emergency locating beacons that people can, hit the 911.
Right.
There's also the most popular thing that's developed recently is the iPhone 14 has a 911 satellite texting feature and a automatic SOS feature. So if you crash your car over the side of a cliff or you fall, the phone will send a automatic notification.
Got it.
You have the opportunity to cancel that in case it was accidental.
Yeah.
But we've been getting probably one a week of those iPhone activations, which is great because it gives us the exact coordinates of the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the cell phone, when you're in cell phone range and you're using, cell phone towers, sometimes the coordinates, aren't exactly accurate.
Yeah. When you say people going out unprepared, does that mean hikes and flip-flops with no water type of unprepared? What does that mean to you?
So, yes, to answer your question, the problem is we've got these great mountain ranges in very close proximity to 10 million people in Los Angeles. And so, it's very tempting to go up there.
Yeah.
That plus, you have the social media factor, people posting videos and people thinking, well, that looks cool. Let's go. And they'll drive up the mountain with bald tires and not prepared for, the extreme situations up there.
When you were young, growing up, were you like, I'm going to be Superman? Like, did you dream of being a superhero?
Dude,
like, where did this idea of rescuing and that stuff come from?
Ordinary guy living an extraordinary life. Anybody could do what I do, 100%.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Trust me.
Is it true?
It's
what
true.
What do you mean by that?
It just takes a commitment and dedication. So of the over 200 volunteers we have in the county doing search and rescue, they come from all walks of life. There is no common professional career among the 200 people, but there is a common commitment and purpose.
Yeah,
for sure.
What made it attractive to you in the first place? Like, what was that initial wait, I've heard about this, I'm all in. What drew you to it?
So there was a missing Boy Scout up near Big Bear by the name of Jared Negretti in the early 90s, and there was a big media campaign about it, and it kind of pulled at me, and I'm like, man, I wish I could just grab my boots and go up there and help, but I realized I didn't have the appropriate training, so I went on about finding out more about search and rescue and who does it.
Were you working family business at this point, or okay,
family business at this point, and newly married, and so my wife and I went to an open
Honey,
house.
I'm going to start rappelling down mountains.
To this day, she says, I married a guy that worried about a cleanup in aisle 2. And so we went to an open house here at Crescenta Valley Station. She was pregnant with our first son, and I'm like a kid in a candy store looking at all the gear and everything else.
Yeah.
In the meantime, she's thinking to herself, oh yeah, he's not going to do this.
Yeah.
And here we are today, and in the capacity where now I not only respond to search and rescue, but I also oversee all the rescue teams in the county.
Got it. What does that training look like? If I wanted to start today, what am I in for? If people are listening going, you know what? I've always wanted to rescue people off the sides of mountains. What does that process look like?
Well, I tell people all the time, it's not a hobby of the month kind of thing.
Sure.
It is a lifetime commitment. And just the process from you telling me today you want to join our team, it'll take you about 3, maybe 4 years to actually become a full team member. Because there's a lot involved. And to be honest, there should be, because we're talking about saving people's lives.
Yeah.
So everybody has to be an EMT, And so you can get that at local community college, Glendale College, Pasadena City College. So that's one requirement. Another requirement is for you to go through the LA County Sheriff's Reserve Deputy Academy. And that's a 5.5 month long training where you're going 2 nights a week and 1 day of the weekend for 22 weeks to become a reserve deputy sheriff.
Yeah.
If that avenue is not feasible for somebody, there is the opportunity to be a civilian volunteer and not have to be a sworn reserve deputy sheriff.
Yeah.
And so when your EMT's done, your academy's done, then you start our mountain school, and that's when we train people the skills necessary to rescue somebody up in the mountains. And we don't expect anybody to show up with all kinds of wazoo experience or talent. To be honest, we'd rather train you ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if I'm at, the bottom of a cliff and somebody's at the top and they're tying a knot, I need to be comfortable knowing they're going to tie the same knot that I would tie.
Yeah, sure. When I get on the treadmill or the bike or go for a walk or a run or whatever, I am constantly searching for motivation. You said it's a lifelong commitment. You have to stay physically fit, obviously. Are you every day when you're working out thinking in your mind, I need to be fit for this purpose?
Absolutely. It's definitely probably my biggest motivator to stay fit and stay in shape. And, when someone's life depends on you being able to go out in the middle of a snowstorm, climb some huge mountain to find them, and then have the energy to rescue them, that takes a lot. And, we tell people all the time, you don't want to be part of the problem. You want to be the solution.
Yeah.
And so the way to be the solution is to be physically fit enough to be able to undergo some of those hard missions.
Yeah. Are you, is there a rescue that is the most common? Are you rappelling down? Are you taking helicopters in places? Like how do you get to where they are? What are the different ways you get to where they are?
So usually we're, hiking or climbing, to find our missing people or our injured people. Yeah. We do work very closely with the Air Rescue 5 group. And trust me, they save us a lot of work sometimes by either flying us in and inserting us, or by going right to where the victim is and grabbing them.
Yeah.
And recently, we had a rescue last month, and me and a fellow team member jumped in Air 5. And they hoisted us down into a canyon to go look for somebody that had activated an iPhone emergency message.
Yeah. How often do you know the state of the person going into it? I mean, are there times that you don't know if you're going to find a dead body or somebody critically injured, or when do you find out the state of the person usually?
So it all depends on the information that's relayed at the time of the accident. So the iPhone, that's one of the great things about the iPhone 14 is once somebody sends that SOS message, it goes right to our station, and our station can actually communicate back and forth with the person to find out, are you okay? What are your injuries? How many people are with you? Are you reporting somebody else's injury, or are you injured? So we get a lot of great information with an iPhone 14 activation. Sometimes it might just be, Johnny didn't show up for dinner at Sunday at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And mom, she didn't worry too much. 7 o'clock, now she's a little upset because dinner's cold.
Sure.
Now 8 o'clock rolls around, it's getting dark, and now mom starts getting worried and starts making phone calls. So kind of our normal scenarios on a Sunday evening about 9 p.m., we get paged for a missing hiker.
Yeah. I would imagine that you've come on gruesome scenes, life-threatening or life-ending scenes. And not to bring it up for you to tell us stories, that would be a different podcast. But that has to affect you as a human. Like what kind of state of mind are you in those situations? I'd imagine there's adrenaline, there's all those things of of trying to find the person, of getting down to the site, however you need to do it. But what kind of state of mind are you in those moments?
So we kind of go into, rescue mode or medical mode. And yeah, we see all kinds of trauma on a regular basis, whether it's a motorcycle crash or someone that fell off a cliff or any number of unfortunate incidents. Yeah. Typically in the moment, you're just doing whatever needs to be done, to rescue that person.
Do the next
and
job.
It's not till like after that you end up, either processing it or not processing it, which is a bad thing.
Yeah, sure.
And I've been through that. And so mental health is becoming more and more important. You hear about it all the time.
Yeah. And
it's a good thing. We have in the sheriff's department, we have a whole team of psychologists that are available to us anytime. And they've come out and they have debriefed our entire team all at one time, or they're available for individual, conversations.
Yeah.
And I've done both.
Is that something that you've seen grow or change over the last 20 years since you started? Is that a newer thing?
100%. Back in the day, you were
tough it out.
You were weak if
Sure,
you reached out and had trouble dealing with something.
Yeah.
Today, it's actually encouraged. Sometimes it's mandated. I mean, if somebody goes through like some real nasty incident, their station commander might say, you know what, I'm going to have somebody to talk to you and just want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
And we encourage people all the time, hey, check on your teammates, talk about it. And it was described to me by one of the psychologists in a group setting. He said, traumatic events are kind of like a drop in a coffee cup, and you never know like what drop is going to take it over the brim. And it doesn't matter if you got a small cup, a huge cup. At some point, there's going to be that drop that takes it over the brim. Yeah. And that's when you need to deal with that.
Right.
And actually, if you deal with it ahead of time, then maybe those drops get a little smaller and, they don't end up affecting you. So it's a big deal, and it's helped out a lot of people.
Yeah. Do you feel like you can not pinpoint like the exact date, but the exact time where you felt law enforcement starting to go, hey, we got dudes that are struggling with this that we need to help? Probably like the stigma of therapy and stuff in general in society probably went through the same process over the last 20 years in a lot of ways. But do you remember kind of that shift happening of guys not getting the help that they needed really, and then the change in
I would
direction?
say it's ramped up kind of gradually but continually over the last few years, driven, I'm going to say, mostly probably by deputy and officer suicides.
Got it.
Because unfortunately that seems to be a growing problem. And it's definitely, attributed to mental health issues.
Yeah. Is it just the weight of what is experienced?
I'm not a professional, so I don't know exactly, but it seems like it's just kind of the continuous trauma that you see and get involved with, and not having resources or not reaching out, yourself. That's why we tell people, check on your partners, because a lot of times people will not voluntarily say, hey, I got to talk to somebody.
Yeah. But you can see the signs that someone might be struggling.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's go a little lighter because I don't want to get too heavy here. What are the common mistakes you see that people make? Let's do a little education. What do people need to know as they're going out on their hikes, as they're going out in their cars, stuff like that, heading up Angeles Crest or wherever they might be going?
Well, so we tell people all the time, have a plan. Tell somebody that plan. And take somebody with you. So, frequently we'll have somebody that just goes out by themselves and they don't really have a plan, or if they have a plan, they didn't tell anybody what the plan was. And so a lot of times we'll get a phone call from a wife saying, hey, my husband never showed up. Here's what he's driving.
Yeah.
Here's the type of car he has. All he said he was going up in Angele's Crest to go for a hike. So now we got to go look for the car.
Right.
And then from the car, we got to figure out where this guy might have gone.
Right.
And that happens a lot. There's actually, we developed something called the LA Sheriff Hiking Plan. If you Google LA Sheriff Hiking Plan, it'll take you to a document that you could fill out and put in your dashboard. It gives us all the information we might need, and it's something you could give to a loved one.
Yeah.
And besides, having a plan, part of that plan involves telling somebody, hey, I plan on being home by 5 o'clock.
Sure.
But
which is something you should tell your wife no matter what you're doing, but especially as you're going for a hike.
Well, yeah. So along those lines, I've told my wife like all the time as I'm running out the door, it's like, oh, this should be a quick one. I'll be back in a couple hours.
Sure.
And she always like doubles the time. So after 30 years, she's learned. But we tell people that, hey, tell somebody like I plan on being home at 5. So, around 7 or 8, if I'm not home, you might want to like make some phone calls.
Yeah, sure. When people are experiencing motorcycle, car, stuff like that, is it usually speed? I mean, is speed just a huge issue going up and down the mountain?
Well, I have a saying that I like to use that the dude, because it's almost always a dude,
yes,
ran out of talent and then he ran out of road. So, you've got motorcycles that can go 160 miles an hour.
Yeah. And
you've got these gorgeous mountain roads that are just begging to be, raced.
Yeah.
And so these guys go up there and, they lay down the throttle and then they lay down the bike.
Yeah.
So sometimes I stay on the road, sometimes I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I have never been on a motorcycle, never will. They scare me to no end, so you're a smart man. Never get a call for me up there. How long are you gonna do this? What is the next 5, 10, 15? How long? You're not gonna be able to rappel forever. You're not be able to hike forever, or maybe you will. I don't know. You're in great shape, so you might be able to do it for a long time. What's the plan? For
whatever reason, God has put it in my head that this is something that I'm halfway good at and should probably keep doing. And over the last few years, opportunities have shown up, doors have been opened, and I chose to walk through them, and it's been life-changing. 2 years ago, going to Ukraine right after the start of the war, to rescue special needs orphans. Last year with the Turkish earthquake, leading a group of search and rescue people to Turkey and performing rescues.
I don't want to gloss over this because this is like big stuff that I was going to ask you about. Also, Ukraine and these things. When did these opportunities internationally start popping up for you?
So with the Ukraine thing, that was actually Jack Osborne, son of Ozzy Osbourne. He's a friend of mine, and as soon as the war popped off, we were hearing about all of the tragedies and atrocities.
Yeah.
And so we were talking back and forth, man, this sucks, kind of wish we could do something. And then he knew somebody that had a group that was going over there, and so he called me up. He's like, hey, you want to go? I'm like, oh yeah. And so that's how that trip started.
Yeah, but what is that like? What is that? What does that mean? Like, I'm trying to picture. The war had started, and you just kind of casually said, "Yeah, we just rescued some special needs orphans in the Ukraine." What was?
Well, the person you probably need to talk to is my wife.
Yeah,
because I think I gave her like 24-hour notice. Yeah, and so. Yeah, she's the real trooper. She's the real hero here, not me.
Sure,
she's the real hero because she's put up with a lot.
Yeah. But you're ready at any notice internationally. You're down. You want to go help people.
Well, and so Jack Osborne and I are talking about forming a foundation and basically a rescue group for the purpose of like international rescue response.
Yeah.
And the name that Jack recommended that I completely jumped on is 6-8, as after Isaiah 6-8.
Okay.
the Lord said, "Who will go for us, and whom shall I send?" And I said, "Here I am, send me."
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're committed to that.
Yeah.
And, the international rescue response stuff is very intriguing to me because I realize that we have certain skills that can help people anywhere that it's needed.
Yeah.
And, doing rescue work here is invaluable.
Yeah.
But I have found just an additional intrinsic value to taking it on the road.
Yeah. So Jack Osborne's life has taken a turn since being on reality TV, is what you're telling me. That's what I'm hearing in this.
He's an amazing individual and surprisingly normal.
Yeah.
When you look at his upbringing,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But he is a very solid and grounded person. He's a dad with 3 daughters and
Very cool.
recently married. And yeah, he's a great guy.
When you look back at early career family business stuff, do you feel like you found your purpose in this? Did you always feel like you had purpose? Did you feel like you found it when you found this line of work? How do you feel about that?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of people talk about, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to limit myself because there's no way in the world 21 years ago, if you told me I'd be working full-time for the sheriff's department,
Sure.
I'd be like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Boom, here we are. And then, 32 years ago, if you would have told me, I was going to do search and rescue, jumping on helicopters, rescuing people, going international, I would have been like, well, that sounds cool, but yeah, not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things, God opens the door. You can either walk through it or not.
Yeah.
And man, I've been running through these doors.
Yeah, it's crazy. The last 4 or 5 podcasts I've done, somehow we've gotten to this same point of all you can do is the next right thing. You can't plan. There's just no sense in trying to plan or draw out a plan for your life. Literally all you can do is the next right thing. And you might be in the Ukraine rescuing special needs orphans.
It's been amazing. And, I just feel like I have this passion for this. And, I'm driven by a couple of Bible verses. Right on my helmet, I've got Ecclesiastes 4:10, which is, pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. And I mean, that's pretty perfect for rescue work.
Yeah.
And once again, it's always a man.
It is.
I swear. I have empirical evidence that women are smarter. And I'm on the record right now saying it.
Yeah.
Because I swear, like 90% of the rescues we have are dudes
who think they can do
doing
more than
stupid
they can do.
stuff.
Yeah. Interesting. Let's dive into faith, religion, God. All those things is a big part of why I'm doing this podcast, getting people's perspective, and the perspectives are so different. What did you grow up with? How did faith come into your life early on?
Well, as a youth, I would say it was probably forced upon me because I went through Catholic school.
Oh, sure, yeah. I went to Catholic high school, so I know all the.
Oh, really?
I know all the things.
Well, okay, yeah. I went to Incarnation Grammar School in Glendale.
Oh, yeah.
Along with a lot of people that you know.
Yeah, sure.
And then concurrently, my wife and her family were going to Grandview Press in Glendale, and some of your family was involved with Grandview Press. And so in high school, I kind of dabbled, over at Grandview Press. After Incarnation, I went to 1 year at St. Francis.
Okay.
And I told my parents, I was, kind of shallow Hal. I'm like, they have no girls. They have no water polo team. I need one or the other. And so, my parents thought, well, Hoover High School is literally a walk from our house.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to, have to continue the carpool up to St. Francis. So I was the first one in our family to go to public high school.
Got it.
And went to Hoover, and it was fantastic, you know. And it's funny because I'm still close with a group of us that went to Incarnation and are still in the area.
Nice.
I'm probably closer with that group than I am with any high school or college group.
Nice.
So it's fun.
you said you started kind of going back and forth. Did you meet your wife in high school?
So my wife, sorry, honey, is 2 years older than me.
Got it.
So in high school, I knew who she was.
Ah.
Because, she was, this
way
gorgeous,
out of your league at that point.
Way huge. Yeah. So, there was not even a thought of having a chance. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
Until, fast forward, at Pepperdine. We both went to Pepperdine. And so I was sitting in the largest classroom that they have at Pepperdine. I was off in the corner with my water polo buddies, and I saw this amazing looking girl sitting like kind of middle of the room. And so I thought I'd be real sly and every day move one seat closer to her. Well, in the meantime, she kind of picked up on this, and she recognized me from Hoover.
Yeah.
And she had cut her hair. So I didn't know that she was the same girl from Hoover. She had the lady dye cut.
Oh, interesting.
Whereas in high school it was long, straight. So I think I'm being all sly, moving closer and closer. In the meantime, she does a little homework, and she asks a few people, hey, does Mike Leum go to Pepperdine? Because I think he's in my class. And luckily, she talked to the mother of one of my Hoover classmates, and this mother told her, oh, yeah, he's a teddy bear. So I'm like, whew, that was good.
That worked out for you.
And so when I'm finally one seat away from her in class, she leans over and says, excuse me, is your name Mike Leum? And I'm like, oh, my gosh, how in the world? And so after class, we go outside and talk, and I realized, oh, my gosh, this is Nancy O'Neill from Hoover High School. And so I tell people to this day that she was my high school sweetheart. She just didn't know it.
Didn't know it yet. That's awesome. Aside from the Hail Marys and Our Fathers of Incarnation, when did your faith start to become personal or important, affecting your life? When did that kind of shift happen for you?
So I would say, it's always been there. But I think actually through search and rescue is probably increased because, I see miracles all the time. I see people that have no business surviving whatever it is they just went through, and here they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're lucky enough that God uses us as the tool to make that happen, but, it's not us saving them, it's Him. And I just feel blessed to be, a tool for Him to use once in a while.
Yeah.
And then actually, coming to Montrose Church, that's been just a complete game changer for me, my family. It's been fantastic.
Yeah. In what ways?
So it goes back to probably 2016 when our youngest son expressed an interest in going to Point Loma Nazarene University. And so he said, we should check out Montrose Church. They're a Nazarene. So I'm like, okay, I'm game. And, so after our first visit, we were like hooked, know, and, for me, it's a lot about the pastor. So Pastor Dave.
Me too.
I mean, if he told me that next week he's turning Buddhist, I'd be like, all right, let's go. Whatever.
Tell me all about it.
Yeah. So, for me, it just resonates all the time.
Yeah.
And it's very relatable and very personal to me.
Yeah. When you, we talked a little bit about the mental health part of your job and how important it is. Does your faith play into that aspect? Do you feel prepared to walk into those situations in a different way? Do you feel a healing in your heart afterwards that, wouldn't be there without your faith? How does your faith interact with those maybe tough situations?
Well, I'll admit that there's some situations that I go into and I might say a little prayer, like as I'm doing it or as I'm on the way, because I realize this could be pretty nasty for a lot of people, for the victim and for us. Because unfortunately, people put themselves in the darndest situations, and we end up having to get in that same situation.
Yeah.
So that's why we train all the time. And, you know, we may have to go rescue somebody on a icy, you know, canyon or something, and we need to be safe for our sake, but also for the victim's sake, to be able to rescue them.
Yeah, even taking all the precautions, even taking all the training, how often do you feel unsafe? How often do you feel like you're putting your life at risk?
There's only a few times that I've come home and actually said,
well, if your wife needs to pause this and fast forward, this is the time. Just go 5 minutes forward.
No. She knows. She knows. There's only been a couple of times I've come home and I'm like,
that one didn't feel right.
I could have maybe died on that one.
Yeah. In what? I just am so curious. In what way? Like you could have fallen. You could have had something fall on you. You could have, you know what I mean?
I did fall.
I hiked too far in somewhere. Like what is the risk?
So, the biggest risks happen with what we call low frequency, high risk. So rescues that may not happen a lot, but are super risky. And that basically is snow and ice and swift water.
Yeah.
And so luckily I'm very comfortable in both those environments.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it's still not risky.
Right.
So last year we were on a search right here in the local mountains, looking for someone who'd been missing for a while. And I was going down a snow-covered slope. And what I didn't realize is that beneath that snow, there was a layer of ice. Below that, there was about a foot and a half of just straight powder. And in the winter, our packs are super heavy. They're like 50 pounds. Yeah. So I busted through the crust of ice. And then next thing you know, I'm going headfirst down this slope. And I realize that if I don't fix this problem real soon, I'm just going to end up bouncing off trees and rocks all the way down.
Yeah.
And so for whatever reason, God put a tree right in front of me. And so in about 10 feet, I hit that tree head first. And turns out that was definitely a large part of saving my life, because it didn't knock me out, luckily, but it spun me around. So I was in a position more likely to be able to stop myself using my ice axe into the slope. I was able to stop the fall after like 50 feet. And so if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't reverted to my training, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
As you were describing that, I'm picturing like Tom Cruise in a Mission Impossible movie. This is your everyday life. That's insane to me. That's crazy.
And it's just, that's when training kicks in, and that's why we train so very much.
Yeah. Because
situations like happen, and they happen really quick.
Yeah.
And so you need to stop them just as quick.
Yeah. Is there like a overwhelming feeling that you have, a foundational feeling, something of God's got me in this situation no matter what? Even if the worst happens, I know God's got me. Even if you know what I mean?
I know. I'd have to say I don't know if I have that as a foundation, because this is probably going to sound weird to you, just like it sounds weird to my wife. But in my opinion, God is all knowing.
Yeah.
And that answers a lot of questions for me. So having an all knowing God, he knows exactly the day that he's going to call me up.
Yeah.
And what I might have is the opportunity to decide what I'm doing at that time.
Yeah.
So I say, I give God plenty of opportunities to take me in a manner that's other than getting hit by a bus.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a little strange. It's a little just a personal thing with me.
No, I love it. I mean, I it's more of a trust that God is all-knowing and no matter what is doing things for my good than trust that God's going to keep me safe in this one situation.
If it's his will that, he takes me during a rescue, then it's his will. If it's his will, to give me some terrible, awful disease, well, then that's his will. So all I can say is, his will be done.
Yeah, and that you find rest in that because you believe he's a good God, and it's ultimately, even though the situation itself might not be good, it's good because he's a good God. I love that. That's great, man. We went a little bit into this, but 5-10 years, you still hope to be doing this, hope to be doing stuff internationally, or are you literally just like, nope, next right thing, not planning anything?
So kind of a next right thing, not really planning anything. That being said, I've got both my boys getting married this year. So, grandchildren will be on the way.
Heyo.
They're both in San Diego.
It's a whole new adventure for you.
So that will definitely, I'm sure, change things up a little bit.
Sure.
I feel like I'd like to do search and rescue, as long as God wants me to, and as long as I'm physically able to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm open to suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like I said, over the last just 2 years, amazing doors have opened.
Yeah.
And life-changing things have happened. So who knows what's next, you know? And maybe there isn't a big thing like next, maybe I'm over, the big things.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
But whatever is going to happen, I'm looking forward to it.
So if someone's listening and they're like, man, this is so inspiring, I definitely I want to do this, right? Not necessarily the steps they need to take, but what do you tell, what advice do you give, what do you tell people who might be inspired by the search and rescue idea? Do you have advice or warnings or anything to people who are interested in getting involved with
First thing I do is be sure to talk to your spouse about it, because they're as much in this as we are.
Yeah.
So we go running out the door to go on a rescue. In the meantime, we might be leaving a wife and 2 little kids behind.
Right.
And so she has to, manage that and deal with that.
Right.
Now, when I go running out the door on a rescue, I'm leaving my wife. We're empty nesters. So, I'm leaving her by herself.
Yeah.
And, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah.
And so one of the things I've tried to do is kind of dial in exactly the types of responses that I go to.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do have some new people coming on board. Unfortunately, they're not fully trained up yet as full team members, so I still have to go on everything that I possibly can.
Yeah. You post a lot of your journey on Facebook and Instagram. Do you mind if people follow you? Can we can we put out your handles and stuff like that?
Absolutely. No, 100%. And just because I think, there's stories to be told, and whether it's, the rescue stuff or, physical fitness, there's positive messages, to be told. And it doesn't seem like a lot of people are telling them. I don't know. Mainstream media doesn't seem to be telling them.
Yeah.
And there's good stuff happening every day.
Yeah.
All around us.
Yeah. Well, that's because good stories get less clicks than bad stories, and
Exactly.
you're involved in a lot of good stories, and that doesn't tend to get people as riled up and clicking on things as much, I think.
Well, the majority of them are good.
Yeah,
There are some that
for sure.
not so good.
For sure.
But I mean, I wouldn't be in search and rescue if the majority of them were bad outcomes.
Yeah.
But I also realized that, with 1,400 career missions, there's been a lot of them that didn't work out.
Sure.
But the overwhelming majority do.
Yeah.
And so when I am able to rescue somebody or, be part of a rescue, and then to see that person move on and have a great life, and that's amazing. So we had a girl who fell off Switzer Falls trying to help her nephew who had fallen also. And so we were able to rescue her with very life-threatening injuries. And then, she recovered. She got married. She has a kid. See her on Facebook all the time.
Yeah.
She sends me private messages like, hey, this wouldn't be possible if it weren't for,
Yeah.
So, stuff like that. it's just an incredible feeling of like, okay, we did good.
Yeah.
And so, any opportunity to do that.
Do you know your Instagram handle? How can people find you?
I think it's just my name. I mean, I'm not very creative.
Let's look it up. Let's make sure.
Just Mike Leum, Leum.
I think you're right. It is just at Mike Leum.
Yeah.
MikeLeum.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. It's so hard to get at just your name in this world now. That's incredible. You're a great follow if people want to follow along. You post a lot of stuff. There's something about it that, one, I'm like, this guy is an actual superhero whenever I see you post something.
Not true.
And I know you don't feel that way. But what it does for me is it makes me feel a little safer. It makes me feel a little safer knowing that people like you are busting their butts every day to be in physical shape, that if I need you, you're going to come get me. And there's something very, it makes me feel very secure. And it makes me feel like I'm very grateful that people like you exist, man.
Well, that's very humbling. If I can somehow be motivation for anybody for rescue or for physical fitness, I'm all about it. Because one of the things that I do is I try and mentor people. And, I have reached out to people that I thought, you need to increase your physical fitness.
Sure.
There was a kid who's on our team now that when he started, just wasn't in physical fitness shape and failed the department's physical agility test. And I said, come over to my house. And so I worked with him, for a number of months, and he has since, he passed the physical fitness test, and he's a full team member. And I have other people that, I work out with, and for me, it's like, there's always going to be somebody stronger than you. There's always going to be somebody
Sure.
faster than you,
Sure.
But you can be stronger
best.
tomorrow than you are today.
Yeah. Awesome. I so appreciate you stopping by and doing this. I was so grateful when you said yes, and I'm grateful that you stopped by and did this, man. I appreciate you.
Well, absolutely. Hey, thanks for the invite. Hopefully it means something to somebody.